Hey, what's going on, SWAC fans? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, and welcome to the State of the SWAC podcast. Really do appreciate your time. We're going to be talking about some SWAC football, some great games that took place over the weekend. You had a few teams that pretty much solidified themselves as being some of the top teams in the SWAC, and then you have some other teams that have some very alarming issues that they have to deal with. But first, we're going to talk about the Jackson State versus Alabama State game. This was Jackson State homecoming. A really great turnout. Almost 54,000 people came to the game to watch Jackson State take on Alabama State. And Jackson State gets the victory by a score of 28-7. This game was relatively close, man. Going into the halftime, the game was tied at 7. In the second half, I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody yelled or screamed or maybe threw a chair. But Jackson State went out there and they scored 21 unanswered points in order for them to get the victory over Alabama State. There are some things about Alabama State that they do really well. They have a really good pass rush, and also they play a lot of bump and run. There's some really good guys in their secondary, and they weren't backing down, and they were not intimidated. But I just feel like Jackson State kind of flexed their muscle a little bit in the second half. You've seen some guys really, stepping it up. Shadur Sanders made some throws, as well as Santee Marshall, who I feel like has done an outstanding job since he became the starter for Jackson State as the running back. And that's something that I felt like Jackson State needed to do in order for them to get the running game going. I just felt like Santee Marshall, the way that he can actually run, those toss plays and those stretch plays, he can get to that barrier faster, than the running back that they had before. He was more of a sledgehammer guy. So I think that Santee Marshall has done an outstanding job, and he's really answered the bell. And also congratulations to Santee Marshall, because he was awarded a full scholarship to Jackson State University. Some people probably follow Santee Marshall's story, knowing, he was the cameraman, and then he became a starter. So congratulations to him, man. A lot of hard work there, and it's showing that hard work paid off. The defense of Jackson State continuing to show that they are the best defense in the SWAC, in my opinion. They're those guys, they're not afraid. They're not afraid to send pressure, and they're definitely not afraid to pressure wide receivers. And they really go out there and they try to impose their will. They really are a physical football team. Sometimes I feel like sometimes they can be a little bit undisciplined. It hasn't really hurt them, but in the future, it could possibly hurt them, man. So they got to be careful, controlling those emotions. Understand, when you're out there, you're chomping, you're talking, but you got to make sure that you stay level-headed, okay? So hopefully those type of issues won't reveal themselves in crucial situations. But besides that, I think that Jackson State played really well. The first half, I don't know what was going on there, but the second half, they really stepped it up. So congratulations to Jackson State for getting the victory by a score of 28-7 over Alabama State. And then we move on to a team that a lot of people are shocked by their performance as of late, especially these last 3 games. And that's Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M, who won the SWAC championship in the spring. They were the spring SWAC champions. Some people would call it that. I would actually call them the SWAC champions, because that's what happened. Some people are talking about COVID, this and that. I don't think that it's going to be an asterisk by that championship because of all the things that were going on. They were a really good football team, and they really did a good job in the spring. But now you fast forward to the fall, and now these guys are on a 3-game losing streak, and you're wondering to yourself, what the heck is going on? You have the best quarterback a lot of people consider in a SWAC, in Quill Glass, and you have a lot of talented wide receivers that he can get the ball to, as well as Quarles, a running back that can run in between the tackles, give you 100 yards, and also catch the ball out of the backfield. The issue that I see with Alabama A&M when I watch them, it has a lot to do with the offensive line. The offensive line of Alabama A&M are not stepping up. Glass is under so much pressure. It's hard for him to read between his progressions, and it's hard to read between your progressions when you got that clock in your head and, you're wondering, am I going to take a sack? And if you don't have a good offensive line, you can become unrattled as a quarterback, and you have to speed up that clock in order for you to get the ball out of your hands. So I feel like that's an issue. Another issue is defensively. They need to get better at wrapping up and tackling. That is something that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks. The secondary, these guys are young, but you would have thought that because they were so young and they had that experience in the spring, they would be able to step it up, in the fall, having that type of cohesiveness that they got from the spring. But it just seems like, they're taking steps back. I'm seeing guys out of position. I'm seeing guys getting flags called on them. I mean, bad eye discipline. So they have to continue to work together, man, because the defense is really was driving this team, and making them fall back from being that team that everybody expected them to be. And also, I just think that they put too much pressure on Glass. So Quill Glass, I understand that he's a really good, talented quarterback. I understand that a lot of people think that he has the talent to play at the next level. I'm one of those people. But I just feel like they put too much on this guy. They're not really putting emphasis on the running game. They having them throwing the ball way too much for my liking. I mean, I think he threw a ball 36 times in this game. He threw it 40 plus in the last game versus Jackson State. But I mean, you can say because he had to. But there were a lot of times where I feel like there's really little to no balance at Alabama A&M, and that is the issue that I look at when I'm watching them. And teams, they know that all they want to do is make this the Quill Glass show, so they zero in on him. And they feel like if they can neutralize him and get pressure on him, then you have a likely chance of beating him. And that's what FAMU actually did. And a lot of people don't understand, man, FAMU has some firepower, okay? Before they came to the SWAC, they were a team, that put up a lot of offensive, numbers, man. They had 3 wide receivers that were over 1,000 yards. One almost had 2,000 yards. So it's not like these guys don't have talent. Now, earlier in the season, they did have some quarterback issues. Which guy is going to start? Which guy is going to sit? But they never had issues when it came to offensive firepower, because they definitely have that. And if you give them opportunity, they could put up some points on you. And not to mention, they have a really good defense. FAMU is very technically sound defensively. And I just feel like they're only going to get better, as the years go by, because FAMU, their coach, the school in general, they do a really good job at recruiting. And we all know about the Florida pipeline. I mean, there's a lot of talented guys that may not get the opportunity at Florida State or Florida in order for them to, continue to play, collegiately. So I just think that these guys are going to really be a force to be reckoned with down the line. But Alabama and them, they got to figure it out, man. 3 straight losses. This is very shocking to me. Very shocking. I thought there would be much better than what they have shown over the last couple of weeks. It seems like teams are trying to zero in on them. Some people say it's because of Coach Cornell Maynor and him talking and running his mouth, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. I mean, it doesn't matter if your coach runs his mouth. It doesn't matter if he's brash and arrogant. If he has the players to back it up, then it doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, he was talking in the spring, and these guys went out there and they won the SWAC championship. So I don't think it has anything to do with him talking. I just think that it has a lot to do with execution and also just some issues that they're having on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're not most likely not going to be able to make it to the SWAC championship because of the loss to FAMU, because of the loss of Jackson State. But I do think that, they still can go out here and, and play for pride, man, and go out there and try to end this season on a high note, because, I mean, they're much better than what they have shown over the last 3 weeks. Also, man, you look at the SWAC West as a whole, man. I mean, it's a race to the finish. I mean, you got Alcorn out here playing really good. They won 3 straight games. You got Prairie View looking really, really good. And also Southern, man, who is out there, they're winning some football games as well. But you have to look at Prairie View. Prairie View has been one of those teams for a very long time that a lot of people don't really pay that much attention to. But they have been quietly good, okay? They could have easily been in the SWAC championship in the spring if it wasn't for a loss to Arkansas Pine Bluff. They could have easily been in that number, so to speak. So I look at Prairie View. I look at the quarterback that they have, Jawine Pass, perfect name for a quarterback, came from Louisville, a guy that is statuesque. I mean, 6'5", man, standing tall and strong in the pocket. He has a really good arm. He's a good decision maker, and he has those guys believing that they can actually win. And you also have a team that has a very formidable defense. So, I mean, Prairie View is one of those teams that can beat anybody in the SWAC, and that includes Jackson State University. I really feel that way, so they do have all the pieces that they need in order for them to make a run. But Alcorn has something to say about that. Alcorn, they set out in the spring. They feel like they are the true champions. They feel like they are the team to beat. Still, they don't feel like Alabama A&M championship is something that a lot of people need to look at because Alcorn didn't play. And I can say one thing about Alcorn, okay? Alcorn just wins, all right? I mean, that's just what they do. They just win. It's not the prettiest win that you're ever going to see, but they are a resilient bunch. I mean, they fight, they scratch, they claw. I mean, they smell like smoke because they go through fire, but they find ways to win football games. And sometimes that's just what you need, right? Until you try to figure out what's really going on with your team. I mean, it's easy for you to figure things out when you're winning, more so than when you're losing, because everybody has something to say when you're losing. But they are a resilient bunch, and regardless to if it's Prairie View or if it's Southern, Alcorn is going to make sure that that they have been in the vicinity. So this is not going to be easy. This is very exciting watching the SWAC West and watching these teams beat up on each other, jockeying for position for their shot to go to the SWAC championship and maybe represent the SWAC in a Celebration Bowl. So all these teams, man, in the West, it's going to be a photo finish, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. There's some games that are coming up, that I'm really looking forward to. One game in particular, man, it has to be, Southern versus Prairie View. That is a game that I'm definitely looking forward to. These are two teams that really are going to beat up on one another because they both want that title of SWAC West champions. Southern is a team that, is really good defensively. They have a really good front four. They have some guys that can rush the quarterback, that can make things disruptive. They can get quarterbacks off their spot. And if you don't have an adequate offensive line, they can make it a tough day for you. And not to mention they have some really good athletes, that play on their team as well. Prairie View is the same way, man. This is going to be one of those phone boot type games when these two teams play, because a lot is on the line right here. A lot is indeed on the line. So, those two teams are going to really be able to, beat up on one another to try to see who is going to represent the West. And also, man, I want to see Jackson State, play at home once again. Jackson State, the next 5 games, 3 out of those 5 games are going to be at home. And they're going to want to show up and show out, versus, for the hometown crowd. And that's something of an advantage. When you get opportunity to play at home and down the stretch, when teams are, trying to make a run at it, trying to make sure that they're actually doing their due diligence and hoping that you slip up. As of right now, Jackson State controls their own destiny, and having these home games can be beneficial to them representing the East in the SWAC championship. But there are so many different storylines going on in the SWAC. I'm looking forward to seeing this photo finish coming from both the East and the West. And I'm looking to see if Alabama A&M can be able to turn some things around, because I think we all can agree, whether you're alumni of the school or not, they're much better than what they have showed over the last couple weeks. But I would love to hear from you. What are some intriguing SWAC storylines in your opinion? What games are you looking forward to down the stretch? Comment down below, like and share this video. This has been the State of the SWAC podcast. Once again, my name is TJ Jones. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, youtube.com, search the State of the SWAC podcast. And also the State of the SWAC is available on Facebook, facebook.com, search the State of the SWAC podcast. Till next time, all I got to say is rough in the SWAC.